Hello, Morrison speaking. Well, the car was due here 3 hours ago. I've been trying to reach you since noon. Now, come in. Well, I'm not blaming anyone. All I'm asking is please don't play games. If you don't want me to photograph that section of the city, say so. But don't have me sit here till there's not enough light. Come in. Well, sure, I can be ready in 5 minutes. I've been ready all day. All right, have them blow the horn. I'll come down. It'll save time. Thank you. Yes?
My name is Ivan Petrovich Tomsky. This is my son, Misha. He's come to play for you.
He's what?
He's going to play for you. He plays like an angel.
Look, Mr.
Tomsky.
I'd be honored to hear your son play, but not now. I'm in a big hurry.
It won't take long. I promise you'll enjoy it. All right, Misha, play.
Thank you. You play very well.
You see how good life in the Soviet Union is? I'm a nobody, a worker. But look what my son has done. Look what the government allows him to do. Misha, play the one about
Mr. Tomsky, I don't mean to be rude, but really, I am in a big hurry. Excuse me.
I have a cousin in America, in Minneapolis. He was in our merchant marine during the war, and after the war, he stayed in America. I wonder if you could possibly...
What?
Take him a message from me, from his cousin.
What message?
Well, tell him I'm well. I'll write his name and address. Tell him I'm well and how good life in the Soviet Union is.
All right, Mr. Tomsky, I'll deliver your message.
I'd like you to tell him something else. Tell him about the boy. Tell him that. Tell him I'm raising the boy that way. Thank you. Thank you.
In depth of the spiritual conflicts of the 20th century. Insight.
How do you do? My name is Father Kieser. The incident you have just seen is not the fictional product of a writer's imagination. It occurred in Moscow in the spring of 1960. Early that year, Paul Morrison, an American photographer, was granted a visa to enter the Soviet Union. In the 9 months he spent there, he was able to glimpse one of the great spiritual conflicts of the 20th century. History tells us that all peoples throughout the ages have found some way to relate themselves to God. Sociology tells us that religion is a dominant element in every human culture. Philosophers explain this by saying that deep within the human heart is a need, a desire for God. In a society like that of the United States, this desire can freely express itself. It's not so in the Soviet Union. There we find a society rigorously organized along atheistic lines. It seeks to obliterate the idea of God from the human brain. How successful can they be? This is the question Paul Morrison is forced to ask himself. Remember, these are true stories. Only the names of the persons involved are fictitious.
Thank you.
Once again, thanks for showing me around.
Once again, my apologies for being late.
Not at all. You did me a favor. If we started any earlier, I would have missed those fabulous shots of the churches.
Museums.
Those spires against the sunset. They look like flaming gold. I never realized your churches were so beautiful.
Do you wish the book you are writing to be accurate?
Of course.
Then point out that they are museums, not churches, and emphasize that religion is no longer necessary in Soviet society.
I'm sure the vast majority of your people don't believe that.
You should not judge others by yourself. Your people may need a heaven in the sky to distract them. Our heaven is right here on earth. Communism has rendered the notion of God archaic and unscientific.
Archaic and unscientific.
You'll see. Look around. Only the old and ignorant cling to their icons. But in Soviet Russia, no intelligent person still believes in God.
Well, I guess I better get back to the hotel.
No, you're my prisoner. I won't let you go.
I have a heart. That train leaves at the crack of dawn.
Who cares about trains?
Well, tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, there'll be one husky lady with a bouquet and a minor city official with a briefcase waiting for me in the bitter cold at Smolensk. Now, you wouldn't want me to disappoint them. Wait a minute. None of that.
I'm not going to see you again.
Why, yes, you will.
No, they'll never let you come back.
Zora, I've applied for a permit.
Well, they won't grant you one. They never do. I'm never going to see you again.
Zora, I haven't seen you like this before.
Well, that's because I've never let myself be a woman with you. For the past 2 months, we have been playing a child's game called Sweethearts.
It hasn't been a game with me.
I don't even know what I'm saying.
Zora, I'll come back.
Oh, Paul, I love you. I ache with love for you. But we only have now.
Zora, I'll be back. Believe me.
I believe in what I can see and hold in my arms. That's why I want you to stay tonight. Please, just tonight.
No, I haven't the right to stay.
I'll give you enough love for a
I
lifetime.
can't.
Yes, the lifetime we can never have.
No, Zora. As much as I want to. No. Zora, these last months have been beautiful. But if I stayed tonight, I'd just be using you.
Oh, not if you loved me.
The consummation of love involves marriage and God.
What are you doing, Paul? Using your God to call me cheap?
Oh, no.
Whether you believe it or not, the offer I made has never been made before.
I do believe it. That's why I refuse. I don't want to hurt you. I want to protect you.
But you couldn't hurt me. You'd fulfill me. Oh, it's funny. I used to think all of this was satisfaction. An apartment, a degree, a salary, a little respect. Well, I'm so bored with it, I could scream. But my parents, my friends, oh, they all think I'm so successful. Zara's life is so wonderful, they say. But Zara's miserable. She's empty. She has an ocean of love to give and no one to give it to. That's what I wanted tonight, Paul. Complete fulfillment.
I can't give you that. No man can. My love, or any man's love, has limits. I think you need more. A perfect love.
With you.
No, Zara, don't you see that only God has perfect love? Even when we're married, we'll need God for total fulfillment.
But you keep talking about God. I've been taught to believe God doesn't exist.
Well, he does exist, and he loves you.
From millions of miles away, with millions of other people to care about. God is a stranger to me. I wish I did know more about him, but he's a shadow.
Anyone can know him.
Do you have any idea of the price I'd pay? I'd lose my job, my apartment. Do you really believe it would be worth it? Do you, Paul?
Don't ask me to answer that.
Then I'll answer it. I think it might. And you know what else? I think you do love me a little.
So much. And I will be back.
Oh.
Zara's heart, like yours and mine, is constructed in such a way that every fiber of its being cries out for love. Zara thought that human love could give her perfect fulfillment. Now she's beginning to see otherwise. The desires of the human heart are infinite. The most perfect human being is incapable of satisfying them. Only an infinitely loving God can do that. By a law written into its very nature, human love finds fulfillment and completion only by immersing itself in God's love. All the propaganda and brainwashing of Soviet society cannot change this basic fact of human existence. But let's return to our roving photographer. The place is Smolensk. The time, 2 months later.
Come in. Professor Trofimov.
Yes.
I'm Paul Morrison. I have permission to photograph your classroom.
Yes, I know. Might have chosen something more suitable. We have modern facilities at the university.
Well, I've already shot 6 reels. The science building, the gymnasium, the library. Yours is the only one left.
You have permission, I can't stop you.
Thank you.
I suppose it will make you rich, this book you're writing, hmm?
It'll pay for my trip. Maybe another.
The American dream. Art for the sake of money.
Well, that's true. But partly true. But the profit motive is important in any society. As a teacher of dialectical materialism, you should know that.
Ah. Not only an author and a photographer, but also an expert in dialectic materialism.
No, not an expert, but I wrestle with it.
But they teach it?
In college.
Classical Marxist thought?
Certainly. Oh, we don't believe it, but it is threatening our future. So we'd be foolish not to study it.
You study it, but you don't accept it.
Oh, no. But I'm sure you accept it.
Let's put a black cat on the table.
Well, I'm not sure I know what you mean.
When you put a black cat on the table, you speak only the truth. Sit down.
Okay? Shoot. It's your cat.
I've been a full professor since the age of 35. That's quite an honor. Dialectical materialism. I'm very good at it, you know. My students are enthralled by my lectures. I don't believe this anymore.
Well, you're kidding.
No. No, I'm very serious.
You mean to stand here in a Soviet classroom and in front of Soviet students and teach Marxist philosophy that you don't believe in?
8 hours a day, 6 days a week.
Oh, the strain must be incredible.
Well, that's a sacrifice I make if I want to maintain my standard of living. I teach what I no longer believe.
Well, I'm sure you didn't always believe this way.
Oh, no. In the beginning, I was totally convinced, and I taught with conviction.
What changed your mind?
I began to realize, slowly, all the best minds of my country are being stifled. Writers, poets, philosophers, artists. Everyone, they're denied intellectual freedom. They're told to toe the party line, to flower within a Soviet hothouse or don't flower at all. Well, it had its effect. Subtly, my thinking began to change. I find myself now, for the first time in my life, beginning to doubt the answers that I have to give to my students.
To what questions?
To the basic questions, the questions every student asks. Where did the universe begin? Is there a God? Do I have a soul? Is there immortality? What is it? Where is it?
Well, how did you handle them?
Them? I ridicule them. I accuse them of bourgeois thinking.
Did it convince them?
Put it this way, it doesn't convince me. My intellect cries out for answers Marxism no longer gives me. You know, it's terrible to find yourself without a faith. To find yourself now a part of a thing that doesn't work.
Well, you can't deny the progress of the Soviet Union during the past 20 years.
Oh, no. Better houses, more railroads, no, that's not enough.
Well, what about the classless society?
We don't have a classless society. We never will. And even if we did, even if we could achieve this thing they keep talking about, this heaven on earth for a future generation, what does that mean to me? Everybody has a personal destiny. Life is a personal experience. Marxism doesn't tell us where we come from, where we're going, why we are here. Marxism doesn't even give us the freedom to think about it.
But you're thinking about it.
Oh, yes, 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 all the time, all the time. All the time. Now I've begun to believe that Tolstoy was right. Pasternak was right.
About man?
About God.
Well, that's not a question, that's an answer.
God may be an answer. Whether or not I can accept him is a problem. Now tell me, do you?
Oh, yes.
You accept him. You've never doubted.
Well, once when I was 17, I thought I had the world by the tail.
You thought what?
Well, I thought I knew everything.
Oh, yes.
I didn't need any men in black robes to pound the 10 Commandments down my throat. I made my own commandments.
Naturally. And all favorable to you.
Well, the first one, as I remember it, went, thou shalt do whatever thou feels like doing. It took me a long time to know that you gain more freedom by surrendering.
How could I? How could I surrender to a God I can't see, I know nothing about? I don't know what he looks like or where he is. You can't find him in a microscope. Yuri went up into space, couldn't find him.
But you can't deny his evidence. It's everywhere. In the order of the universe, in the precise structure of a cell, in a baby's hand, and in human love.
Oh, I wish I had your faith.
Well, I tell you, I couldn't live without it. It gives meaning and significance to everything. I'll never forget what I was taught as a child, that I was made to know, love, serve God here on earth, and be happy with him forever in the next.
Unfortunately, we don't remain children.
But we must believe with childlike simplicity. Christ said that.
Yes. Now, you believe in Jesus Christ.
With all my heart.
Now, what does that feel like, to believe in Christ? What does that do for you?
So much, I don't know where to begin. When I think of God, I'm staggered, I'm overwhelmed. It's as impossible of me to think of the infinite and to understand it as it is for my cat to understand Einstein's theory of relativity. But I can identify with Christ because he's flesh and blood. The smell of food made him hungry. He worked with his hands. He knew anger. He laughed. Once for a second, he was even afraid. His feelings are my feelings. And I can go through his humanity to God's divinity.
Oh, sometimes I think education is a curse. Knowledge is a curse. Since I was a child, I was taught that this day on Earth, this is the sum of existence. I can't believe that anymore. That this life is nothing but an interruption between two endless silences? That's not reasonable. It's some kind of sadistic joke. There has to be more. There has to be something beyond that. How do I find it? How do I find it?
I think you are finding it.
The professor's search for a comprehensive and profound explanation of his own destiny is forcing him to abandon the intellectual blinders imposed on him by his communist ideology. But where is he to go for such an explanation? I think he must go to God. He's the author of a human life. He knows more about it than anyone else. He's the one best equipped to interpret it for us. 6 months later in the Ukraine, Paul Morrison visited with a man who was fulfilling the meaning and purpose of his life.
I can't conceive of that, Father. 14 hours of work a day. Not enough food to feed a dog. A bit of cold. I don't think I could have survived.
Sit down, my young friend. Part of survival is learning to conserve your energy. The other part is right here.
Well, you must have been at least 40 when they took you away.
Oh, it's 45. I celebrated my birthday on that little Siberian train. 45 when I left, 70 when I returned.
Did Stalin send all the priests to concentration camps?
Well, those who weren't shot. Oh, a few escaped by hiding. Anyway, your words are wrong. They weren't concentration camps. They were worker reorientation centers.
Oh, that's a phony if I ever heard one.
Well, the theory was that a little hard work and fresh air would make a new man of you. Unfortunately, it made more dead men than new men.
Well, you must be iron.
Oh, stronger men than me died. I told you that survival was right up here. I lived because I had to live. These hands that were digging ditches should have been serving Christ to my people. I lived because my people needed me.
Well, why did they finally release you?
Well, when Stalin died, there were certain reforms. I guess they must have looked at me and figured what harm could an old scarecrow like that do?
Well, I'd say the old scarecrow has done pretty well. I'm leaving tomorrow, Father, and I'm not sure when I'll be allowed back. This has been a great experience for me. I'd like to take a picture.
Oh, well, if I'm going to pose for pictures, I think you should listen to a joke.
Okay, but it better be funny. I won't just laugh.
You know that here in the Soviet Union, we have a housing problem, and also a very acute food shortage. Now tell me, how do you think we should solve these problems?
I'm stumped, Father.
Well, it's quite simple, really. We open up all the borders. Then all of the people who rush out, and of course that'll be most of them, will leave us with an abundance of food and apartments.
Have you suggested this to the local Soviet?
Oh, well, the local Soviet doesn't think very much of my suggestions.
You know, I'm amazed they even allowed you to open your church. This is the only place that communion is served in 1,000 miles.
Well, it's easy. When you know the secret, all you have to do is make a pest of yourself. Then they either give you what you want or they shoot you.
Well, how much pestering did that take?
Well, I went down there every single day for a solid year. And finally, the secretary was so sick of looking at me, he said, "All right, old man, say your mass." But he says, after you are gone, that is the end of it. We are not going to give permission to anyone else. Do you know what I told him?
Oh, I can't imagine.
Well, I said, "All right, Mr. Secretary. In that case, I won't die."
That sounds like a threat, Father.
You should have seen his face. He didn't know what to say.
Did he believe you?
We didn't know what to believe.
Do you believe you won't die?
Well, I believe God won't allow the faith to die. Oh, he'll keep me around as long as I'm needed. Meanwhile, while the secretary is standing out there waiting like a vulture, I'm very, very busy. Baptizing my people, marrying them, absolving them, teaching them, putting Christ into their mouths.
But what do you say to them, Father? Their faith demands a tremendous sacrifice. They must suffer for it every day.
Well, I say, God writes straight with crooked lines. I say, don't lament your situation. To be a Christian means to sacrifice. Merely because we are suffering privations doesn't distinguish us from other centuries of privation. It unifies us. It enriches us. It strengthens us. I tell my people to get on their knees and thank God for sending us across. I tell them to sing hallelujah for all the problems they do have. You can lock church doors, but not human hearts. Long after I am dead, my people will still be singing hallelujah.
Father Mayukin is indeed an exceptional man. He symbolizes and expresses the spiritual faith and tough heroism that is native to the Russian soul. Fortunately, Father Mayukin is not unique. There are thousands, perhaps millions, of such deeply religious men living in the Soviet Union today. Some of them became bored with the material pleasures which Soviet society made available to them. They found themselves reaching beyond matter, toward spirit. They wanted something they could live for, something they could give themselves to. Sometimes without being fully aware of it, they were reaching for God. Communist ideology claims that such things do not happen, but they do happen. Why? Because men are men. Because deep within man's nature is a need for God. As long as a man remains a man, that need in one way or another will seek to express itself. Let us pray that in the not too distant future, the Russian people may freely satisfy that need with the generosity and courage that has always marked them.
Insight is a production of the Paulist Fathers, a group of Catholic priests who serve their God by serving those outside their church.